Hey, this is Owen. If you're comfortable, leave your first name and state at the sound of the tiny truck backing up.
Hello, Owen. This is Tycho. I'm calling from British Columbia, Canada again. I was just watching some of your Johnny Enlow speaking on Humpty Dumpty, and then I just saw the news story about the judge making reference to Humpty Dumpty in the case against Donald Trump. Very interesting. It would seem that the prophet was right on this one. Love to hear your take on it. Thank you.
Okay, let me give you guys a little bit of backstory on this. I did a video on Johnny Enlow recently. I think in January of 2022, Johnny Enlow did this whole stream called Humpty Dumpty or something. And the whole idea behind the stream is that he received divine revelation from God. And here is the divine revelation he received. Quote, Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. End quote. That's the saying. That's what the whole stream was about. He got divine revelation from God that Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall and then had a great fall. He basically dragged this out into like a 2-3 hour event or something, a big prophetic event where he talked about how significant it is that Humpty Dumpty was sitting on a wall and blah, blah, blah. I mean, he really went into depth. I mean, listen to some of this.
But Lewis Carroll was deeply tied into what we would say is the Illuminati.
By the way, Lewis Carroll wrote Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. I believe Through the Looking Glass was like a sequel to it. And Humpty Dumpty was a character in that book. As a character, he would twist things around to mean the opposite of what they meant. You know how Alice in Wonderland was. That's just kind of how it worked. It was a really weird show. It's just what it is. It doesn't mean that, you know, they're Freemasons or whatever. It's just a weird show.
But Lewis Carroll was deeply tied into what we would say is the Illuminati, the Freemasonry, the elite, the evil elite. And the name of the book is Through the Looking Glass. And it was the sequel to Alice in Wonderland. But one of the most well-known and repeated storylines of in the book Through the Looking Glass is Alice interacting with Humpty Dumpty. He keeps misusing words, and really it's crazy, but the first word I believe that he misuses is glory.
It's just a character from a book, man. It's just a character from a book. There is nothing supernatural or spiritual about it.
And then he goes on, it's a diatribe of how he just makes words be what he wants them to be, and by superimposing his willpower, he makes that be for whoever he wants it to be. So words don't really matter. So Humpty Dumpty was one who was known for twisting words. He could slander with his words. That's exactly what the word Satan and devil, what those words actually mean, or they shift and change words.
Yeah, so Humpty Dumpty was just a character in a book, and there's really nothing more to it. But since he was that character in that book that kind of shifted words around and used them in funny ways to mean the exact opposite of what they meant, Humpty Dumpty is held up by people as an example of somebody who does that. Let's keep listening to this clip.
So the Lord's saying, Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall.
This is his prophecy from Jesus.
And then you find out Humpty Dumpty Institute is something that had Mark Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein's brother, listed as director as recently as 2018.
And we're right off the rails. Yeah, into conspiracy land.
Fully associated with the Communist Party of China, the CCP. It has high-level State Department from the United States connection, the global elite.
Yeah, just complete conspiracy land at this point. So what you were saying, it seems like Johnny Enlow was correct. Let me give you the context for what the caller was talking about, what he heard in the news. This was the news at the time. Donald Trump's accounting firm had dropped him because he wasn't being clear about how much money he earned or something like that. And this is what the news report said.
This is from the judge, comparing the argument that somehow having your accountant firm bail on you means you should win was downright Orwellian. It was, of course, Orwell who wrote in 1984 about the, quote, war is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. the idea that words have no meaning whatsoever, and that's not all. What's worse than Orwell? Well, maybe Humpty Dumpty, because the other comparison was that, again, this argument that losing your accounting firm means you should win the case and not have to testify was likened to a famously stupid claim, a rejected claim by none other than Humpty Dumpty.
When I use a word, it means what I choose it to mean, neither more nor less.
Yeah, so the judge was referencing this scene from, like, Alice in Wonderland or Alice Through the Looking Glass. That's what the judge was referencing, the fact that Humpty Dumpty was, he liked to twist words around. The prophet was not correct. He jumped straight into conspiracy land. There's nothing about this that was correct. The judge was just quoting an old kids movie called Through the Looking Glass when he was talking about Humpty Dumpty. So hopefully that adds some clarity to my position on it. I think in no way, shape, or form was Johnny Enlow correct. He was just spouting off nonsense as he always does, and he mentioned something that a judge also mentioned simultaneously, basically. Anyway, thank you for the voicemail. I appreciate that.
Hi, this is Silas from Indiana, he, him. I'm watching your podcast, and at the Perry Stone part, I just wanted this is really pedantic, I'm sorry. I wanted to let you know, though, that his math is actually right.
Let me give some lead up to this. So Perry Stone, a while back, put out a clip talking about how much time he has invested in studying, right? And he claims to have like 175,000 hours or something like that. Let's listen to the clip and see exactly what he said.
I am absolutely convinced. I'm 62 years of age. I've been preaching for 46 years. And I'm not saying this in a boasting way, but we probably have well over between 172 to about 175,000 hours literally in study. That's reading, studying, word studies, research, reading books. And that's not an exaggeration, because since I was 16 years of age, I would go 4 hours, then 8 hours, and sometimes 10 to 12 hours a day. My staff knows I'm telling you the fact. That's what I do.
Okay, so Perry Stone's claim is he has 175,000 hours studying, right? And this caller, I actually did the math on this, and I did a 5-day work week and assumed that he would be doing even 10 hours a day, to be generous, studying or reading the Bible, basically, and calculated it would take him like 81 years or something like that to actually get those 175,000 hours. But the caller is saying
that his math is actually right if you assume that he did study 7 days a week instead of 5 days a week. If you do 8 hours, 5 days a week for 41 years, because I misheard the number, you get 170,056. Thank you.
The caller is saying I'm off base if I redo the math to account for a 7-day work week, then he may be telling the truth. So let's redo the math. We got 175,000 hours, say 7 days a week, although there's no reason to think that he does it every single day of his life. We're talking 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Has he ever gone on a vacation ever with his family? In fact, has he ever spent any time with his family at all? I mean, we're talking 10 to 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, reading the Bible. He is literally spending every waking moment reading the Bible. I mean, accounting for lunch breaks and bathroom breaks, he's spending every waking moment reading the Bible. So we'll redo the math. 7 days a week. Actually, let's do it by year. 365 days a year. That's a better number to start with. 365 days a year, we'll say times 10 hours a day, right? So how many years would he have to do this to reach 175,000 hours? He would have to be doing this for 48 years straight, plus 16 years, because that's when he said he started. If he is under 64 years old, then I have questions. I mean, I already have questions because it's ridiculous to think that he would do this 7 days a week, 10 hours a day, bathroom breaks, lunch breaks. He couldn't go on vacations. He couldn't even drive. He couldn't even drive to church without accounting for that time. You don't realize like how much time is taken up when you just slice 10 hours out of a day like that. It sounds like your math is correct here. If we account for 10 hours per day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, for 64 years since the age of 16, then I guess technically he could reach 175,000 hours. but that is a completely absurd claim in the first place. So I appreciate the correction on the math. I think it's still completely absurd to buy this claim at all. It's ridiculous.
So, Owen, I'm hearing the word revival too often by too many different people. Bachman was on your channel. I'm hearing Marjorie Taylor Greene, less than 12 hours using the thing, America needs a revival. That's coming from, not Swagger, but the other one you cover all the time, Kenny Copeland. That's where it's coming from. America needs a revival. Does that include Jews and atheists and Catholics too?
Good question. Does it include Jews, atheists, and Catholics too? The answer is no, it doesn't. What they want is for atheists, Jews, and Catholics to get out or convert. The evangelicals that basically run the Republican Party at this point have always been about supremacy and control. It's never been about peaceful coexistence for people like Perry Stone, for people like Johnny Enlow. It's never been about peaceful coexistence. They want to control the United States and the government or see it burn to ashes around them. I feel comfortable saying that after watching as many videos and sermons and clips by these people as I have. They want to control it or see it burn to ashes around them. No joke. This email is from Kai. Cultish behavior in crypto communities is the subject. Hi, Owen. Big fan of your work and activism in regards to cults and their abuse of both power and people. I've been seeing a lot of discussion online about cryptocurrencies and NFTs lately. Whenever I look at the way people who are into cryptocurrencies, and especially NFTs, talk, I see them using very in-group specific language, along with strongly encouraging certain behavior, so I wondered if you think it would be appropriate to call some of their communities close to or entirely a cult. I don't think they have a traditional cult structure, like, for example, Jehovah's Witnesses or Heaven's Gate, but there's absolutely something strange going on within those spheres that I can't quite put my finger on, and I find worrying. Note, I'd also like to clarify that I don't think this means every crypto investor is a cult member. It's just the online communities around crypto specifically that seem that way to me. What do you think? Yeah, I appreciate that. I wrote this model called the extremism gradient, and it's basically different levels of cults, different layers or tiers. We've got level 1 cults is what I call it. It's decentralized and non-focused. And what I mean by that is there isn't a central leadership, like a top-down hierarchy that determines what these people believe and the information that they take in, but it's kind of dictated on an individual level. Like you'll find this a lot in like Facebook groups, like anti-vax groups and stuff like that. They'll form out, and the people who have the most extreme ideas and opinions and moral values about this specific subject rise to the top. The upvotes determine what the ideology of the group is. As a group, they all kind of determine what the ideology is going to become. That's the decentralized part. The non-focused part means there isn't a specific leader that they're focused on. The difference between something that's decentralized and non-focused and something that's decentralized and focused is, in the focused case, it's focused on a single leader. This is level 2 cults. Focused on a single leader like Donald Trump. I mean, think of any cult of personality. They're focused on one person who dictates and directs the ideology, the moral belief system, and the ideals that the group should adhere to. And they follow those ideals and push the belief system further and further in these decentralized groups. So it's decentralized and focused. That would be level 2. And level 3 is centralized and hierarchical, like Jehovah's Witnesses, for example. Jehovah's Witnesses, Jonestown, Heaven's Gate, Mormonism, all of these would be good examples of level 3 cults, and you can use the Byte model to determine if they are cults or not. So see if you can find where certain crypto groups fit in here. Usually I say that it needs to be like a group rather than a category that we're talking about, but can you identify like a crypto space as like level 1, 2, or 3? Decentralized and focused, decentralized and non-focused, or centralized and hierarchical? I know Elon Musk has a lot of crypto investors behind him that I would consider part of a level 2 decentralized but focused cults. Hopefully that adds a little bit of context to my view on this. Like I said, I came up with this model, but I'm no expert by any means, so that's just my opinion on it. Next email is from Michael McGill, a fan letter from the vestry. I take a stroll through YouTube almost every evening. I've seen some things. It's difficult to find much I can understand, much less agree with. You, my friend, are a happy exception to that. I appreciate your thoughtful assessment of our turbulent world. Well, thank you for listening. You did not have to do that. This may strike many as strange. I am a Christian junior warden at my church, but I've never understood this knee-jerk reaction to atheists. The greatest threat to religious freedom is fundamentalist Christianity, and on occasion your subjects have frightened me badly. They are nuts. There's nothing in the Bible that instructs me to throw rocks at atheists, so what's the attraction? Why do some Christians seem to require so many enemies? I'm counting on you to tell me. Well, it's hard to know for sure, but I will say this. It's partly cultural. Historically, religion has always hated the outsider. That's what the Crusades were all about. They were going to convert people by force if necessary. And I think in a lot of ways they just had a vested interest in just hurting people anyways, outside of converting them. So religion has always been about hating the outsider, hating anybody who's not like you, forming that brotherhood, forcing people to fit into this box that looks just like the box that you're in. Religion is all about building a community that is organized and fits perfectly within the confines of what everybody expects. And the more extreme you get, the more conformed to that space you expect your friends to be. And the more you hate outsiders. It's tribalism at its most basic. I don't hate anybody for anything, honestly. But there was a time when I did. I guess you could say. There was a time when I was religious and I felt like I was superior to everybody who was not a Jehovah's Witness. When I left the religion, I recognized that in myself and I excised it from my mind as best I could. Excised it completely, honestly. I don't think anybody is better for being a Jehovah's Witness anymore. But the point here is that it's built into religion, it's built into the culture, and we have to try to find a way to prevent people from going down that path even deeper. We have to find a way to prevent people from falling into that cultural rabbit hole where they would feel compelled to hate somebody for some inherent quality about themselves. It's like a culture war is playing out in front of us right now, and we have to find a way to prevent extremist Christians from bringing more people under their tent. We have to find a way to fight back in the culture war, basically. That's what's happening. We have to fight against tribalism. It's like an inherent, deep-down desire to conform, to force everybody around you to conform. That's what it seems like to me. So take that for what you will. And I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you coming and thinking about the things that I say, because not every Christian will do that, obviously. But anyway, once again, thank you for listening. I appreciate the email very much.